Yes. He came to office in 2014. Just think back. Seems like such a long time ago, especially for the youth, to put that in perspective. 2014. And when he came into office, he was determined to make things better. Visually, you can just drive through Newark and you'll see the progressive things that have happened. I happen to have stayed at the Robert Tree, just a personal note, and I was looking out the window. I made sure that it was on the top floors, and I looked and seeing the lights of Newark all around me with those tall buildings and the wonderful work that has been done in Newark. And we want to give thanks to the mayor for all that he has done in terms of being a progressive approach to governing in Newark. Not only in Newark, but he has extended connections with grassroots work that he has done in Washington, not just Washington, in the White House. I need an applause for that. He's already made those connections. And we want to thank him for forward thinking and reducing the crime rate in Newark. We want to thank him for addressing the affordability for all in Newark. We want to thank him for the steady growth that we have seen taking place in Newark, and also with the unemployment rates being reduced in Newark. Not to mention, young people, that Newark was under self-control by the state for 2 decades. I'm not talking about 2 years, like the freshman and the sophomore year. I'm not talking about the first and the second grade. I'm talking about decades. He was able to receive Newark and return it to local control in Newark. If that doesn't require applause, I don't know. I can't find nothing else. And just looking at him, he is so humble. He's such a hard worker. He's a man that all of New Jersey should be very proud of, to say that, you know what? I'm going to change things in my city too, and in my county too. I'm going to do what the mayor of Newark has done, Mayor Ras Baraka.
She's trying to set me up. I know what she's doing up here. I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here. I had a long morning. You know, it's always rough. Shout out to Mayor Mapp. How you doing, sir? Mayor Plainfield there, my colleague, my brother, doing outstanding work in Plainfield. We are partners in the things that we do. We president and vice president of the Urban Mayors Association, trying to figure out all the issues we have to deal with every single day in cities like Newark and make those issues state priorities. Because a lot of times the issues we deal with are not priorities of the state or other people. And so it's our job to make our priorities their priorities. And if they were smart, they would understand that, you know, when we lift cities like Newark and Plainfield up, that it lifts the rest of the state of New Jersey up. That in fact, New Jersey could not function without our cities. And that's important for people to know that, because sometimes we write these cities off. But I want to thank the New Jersey Black Issues Convention for giving me the opportunity to be here. I just want to thank you for being a stalwart and making sure this convention lasted all of these years. I remember going to the Black Issues Convention as a child, as a kid, young person like this, or being dragged there by my father or some other people. But it is just great to see that people are still coming out and being a part of what this is. And I want to tell you that it's probably more important for us to have a Black Issues Convention now than it probably has ever been. It is more important. And then think about how our issues affect the rest of the issues of the state. And I know some people don't have the imagination to think like that, because Harriet Tubman said that she could have freed more slaves if they only knew they were slaves. And that's because the first thing that oppression takes from you is your imagination, your ability to see yourself somewhere other than where you are now, your ability to see something different than what you're dealing with now. You get so comfortable with being in what you are that you can't see any other place other than where you are. In fact, you get so wallowed in pessimism and stuck in where you are, you make enemies of the people who are trying to get you out of there. So the very people who are trying to lead you out of those things, they become your enemies. Like when Moses was leading people out of the promised land, to the promised land, at some point they started revolting against him because the hardship that it was taking to get to where they wanted to go, they started saying, I wish I was back in slavery. You begin to lose your imagination. You begin to lose your ability to think about what freedom is, because if you've been shackled for so long, you don't even know the concept of what freedom is, especially after generation and generation and generation of being in that situation. Somebody telling you we're going to be free, you look at freedom as a burden, that it'd be easier for you if you were in fact left alone. You know, this present moment that we're in is probably one of the most important moments in this country. And many of us, we are not looking closely at what's happening, but we should be. Our voting rights is still under attack in the United States right now. A lot of us take it for granted. These young people haven't got a chance to vote. We better hope we get a chance to vote soon, as these people are working hard to make it difficult for you to be able to vote at all. In fact, we just had a discussion at the table about states' rights. So them referring everything back to the states, depending on who's in charge of your state, legislatures or governors, you may be fighting for your right to vote in the state you're in based on where you live at. 1,600 books have been banned across this country already right now. 1,600 books. Why? To fight against this so-called idea of critical race theory, which basically saying teach true history. Tell everybody's history. Talk about the history of slavery, of Jim Crow, of all the things. So, in everybody's, frame of reference. So instead of doing that, we're going to ban 1,600 books. The attack on women's right to choose. All of these things are critical in these midterm elections that are coming up, which is why it'll be a defining moment in history. What happens because out of January 6th, a revolt in the Capitol against a Democratic election, an actual revolt, and that's what it was. It wasn't just a protest, it was a revolt on January 6th, running into the Capitol, where the former president is now being subpoenaed, something that has been done in nowhere time in history, that this is happening right now. This is what's going on a national level. So these midterm elections are very, very, very important. They're more important than what you know. So we need to make sure we get out and participate and vote and get everybody else we know to vote, to make sure we defend ourselves. Sometimes when you're voting, you might not be voting for someone or something in particular, because we get into this debate with each other about, I don't really support everything this person says or does. Sometimes you're voting just to defend yourself. Sometimes your vote is to defend yourself. Well, you know these people are trying to harm you, then you need to make sure that they don't get into a position to actually do that. And so you make sure they're not there, right? And that you have a greater voice and a greater reach in what's going on in your life and your family's life and your community. You have to make sure that you participate in these midterm elections, because it is incredibly, incredibly important that we make our voices heard. And New Jersey gets lost in that. So I came here to talk a little bit about New Jersey, not about the national state of things. Just had to start off that, but New Jersey gets lost in that. We get lost in the midterm elections. We get lost in the national elections. We get lost in that. They don't pay a lot of attention to New Jersey. We get lost in it. They think that everything is okay in New Jersey. You know, New Jersey, one of the last states to abolish slavery. That's New Jersey. The right in front of our face, Livingston and Carteret and all of these names that we know, Schuyler and all of these names that are cities are named after. These are people who made their millions from slavery. These are slaveholders that are paraded in our face every day. And we have no knowledge of any of this. New Jersey, we are overlooked because we are some blue state in people's mind. But I'm going to tell you a secret that New Jersey is really a red state. It only becomes blue when we vote. When black and brown people vote in New Jersey, it gets blue. When we stay home, the state is really red. It's a red state. Over 40-something% of people voted for Donald Trump in New Jersey. In New Jersey, right? So this is not, we running around to my own New Jersey is a blue state. I beg your pardon. When we stay home, and the proof of that is that Democrats have not been able to stay in the state house for 2 consecutive terms because after the first term, we get sick of them and we stay home, and then they have a Republican for 8 years after that, right? Because we stay home because, they say they're going to do stuff that they can't live up to, and it doesn't happen, so we get discouraged and we stay home, and so we get hell to pay for the 8 years that we stood down for the one day of election. So we get 8 years of pain for that because we decided to stay home. Not work harder, not organize better, not make our arm reach a little longer, not raise our voices some more, not put pain or hold people accountable who we voted for. We go home and give up and turn back and turn away, and we give the state over to everybody else. And then before you know it, our rights are rolled back on. So you say, oh, why are you voting for him? He didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't do this. Well, it's better than what we gonna get. And my father used to say to me, you at least need a person in there you could struggle with, somebody you could fight with at least. If they're not even going to talk to you, then you're really in bad shape. You put yourself further back. You have to at least put somebody in there you can put your hands on. Somebody who you go down there you can put your hands on. And that's what we need, right? We need that, but we need to even go further than that. We have to stop just putting people in office who we are okay with. And that's just based on our organization. Like that's us. That has nothing to do with anybody else. That's what we need to do. Why? Because look, New Jersey, we're the 4th most segregated state in this nation. We have the largest wealth gap in this community. Look, Roe versus Wade is alive and well in New Jersey, and we got a very progressive governor who's going to fight for Roe versus Wade. But look, black women die in the operating room in maternity wards in this state 4 times greater than white women in the state of New Jersey. One of the largest rates in the nation right here in New Jersey. That's what's happening here. More of our children are languishing in these jails than many places in this country. In fact, some of our children are 10, 11, 12, 19 times more likely to be incarcerated than other people's children here in the state of New Jersey. We make up the majority of the folks that are incarcerated, black and brown folks in this state. We are still segregated in the schools in New Jersey. Most schools in New Jersey are segregated. They're segregated by race and by class. They're segregated. Most black children in New Jersey will always go to school with other black children in New Jersey. Brown children in New Jersey will go to school with brown children. That's it. That's how we're segregated. And we segregated in the same county. In the same, a mile away, 2 miles away, not just by race, but also by class. That means that 2 miles away, somebody by your zip code, somebody is making $150,000 a year. I come from a city where the average income is $34,000 a year, just a few miles away from Millburn. Just a few miles away from Livingston, just a few miles away, where the wealth gap is so huge that it will take generations to fill. The income gap is so huge, so your zip code determines your lifestyle, determines your access to health care, determines your ability to get a decent education. It determines whether you're going to find yourself in a grave early or in college. Your zip code. And the zip codes are not far, far away. They're very close, which means that there's something that has to be done in New Jersey about segregation right here. Segregation, not just race, but by income and wealth and class, that it takes generations to repair. And so we just don't need an apology. Because people always tell me New Jersey apologized for slavery. We need, that's good, but we don't need an apology. I don't want no apology. I don't want no neat legislation or a friendly white Democrat in office. That's not what we need. I know people don't think they be surprised when I talk this way, but I got a right to talk like this. That's not what we want. We want to be repaired. And we can't, in New Jersey, we can't even say we want reparation because people are afraid to say we need to be repaired. We need to be repaired. There's nothing wrong with saying we need to be repaired. We need to be repaired for everything that happened. We need to be repaired for it. It's okay. We don't need a panel to decide whether we were harmed. We don't need no discussion to talk about the impacts of this and the impacts of that. We need to be repaired. We need to be repaired. We need to be repaired for 250 years of free labor. Repaired for thousands of years of lynching, hundreds of years of lynching and terrorism. Thousands of people lynched and thousands of people terrorized in this country. We need to be repaired. And in New Jersey, the last state to free slaves. In fact, after Juneteenth, there were still 16 slaves in New Jersey, still. Bergen County being the largest place in New Jersey where slaves were brought because of the ports. Stuff I'm telling you, we need to be repaired for that. They made it illegal for us to own property in New Jersey. Made it illegal for you to own property in New Jersey. This is New Jersey we're talking about, right? So we need to be repaired. We want to be prepared for the breaking up of our families, to prepare for denying us employment for decades, prepare for Jim Crow, prepare for all of the jailing and murdering of our leaders. We want to be prepared for housing discrimination and flooding our communities with drugs. We want to be prepared for every child that's been denied a decent education, for every black child in this state who believes that the color of their skin makes them inferior. We need to be repaired for all of that. Yeah, we need to be repaired. And we can't be afraid to say we need reparation. We have to say that. Even if it don't happen in your lifetime, have the courage. I watched the video of Queen Mother Moore at the Black National Convention in 1972 in Gary, Indiana, passing out literature talking about we need reparations. In 1972, people was talking about that before. Here we are in 2022, still having a discussion about whether we should be talking about reparations or not. Not whether we need it, should we even be talking about reparations? Yeah, we should be talking about reparations. Reparations here, right here in the state of New Jersey, we should be talking about reparations. How is it going to look? However we want it to look. However we want it to look. I want welfare, farm subsidies, whatever you got. You ought to be giving us free education, anything you got, and we should not be afraid to say that. Why should we be afraid to say we want reparations? We shouldn't be. We shouldn't be. We need investments in our community. Investment. Look, Newark, we have about $5 billion worth of development happening in the city right now. Right now, there's all of the stuff that we're doing on our own that the sister talked about, and I'm going to tell you this, and while people talk about it, I'm going to tell you this, that it's not enough. We have billions of dollars worth of development happening now. We try to force people to hire Newark workers. We create inclusionary zoning ordinances to make it possible for folks who cannot afford to live in luxury apartments to have affordable housing in those places. Set aside 20% of that. Create affordable housing trust fund so you use some of those dollars to build more affordable housing. We take people on Section 8 with vouchers and make them first-time homeowners, right? We use their voucher that they have and make sure they've been living in Pennington Court all their life. Now they can own a home. We got about a half a dozen or more people who are doing that, and we're expanding it more. We get ready to create an MOU with Bank of America and NACA that will allow us to sell you a property for $1 and use the amount of money that it would cost to redevelop the property as your mortgage, right, with no down payment at all if you're 60% or below the AMI. But that's not enough. Right? We forced all of the anchor institutions in the city to hire Newark residents. So we had a goal of hiring 2,020 people by the year 2020. They hired actually 4,000 people by the year 2020, which means they got people to hire, and they should be doing it and should have been doing it. But guess what? That's still not enough. We marched down to the port and made Port Authority hire Newark residents, so people were working on the docks and working on the warehouses down there. But then we got 250 people working in port-related jobs right now, but it is still not enough. It's still not enough. It's still not enough. And so even when we take vouchers and put residents without addresses in hotels or put them in shelters and build a new shelter, do all these things with our imagination, our creativity, it's not enough. It's not enough. We build new schools. If the money they give us money, we build a new school, it's not enough. There's nothing that we can do locally that will ever be enough. That will ever be enough to repair all of the damage that has already been done and the damage that is being done now. That's why residents get frustrated with leadership, because no matter what you do, it will never be enough. Because the problem is too big, it's too vast, it's too ugly, and you didn't start it, and you didn't create it. In fact, the federal government just sued a bank now for still redlining in 2020 in the city of Newark. Still, and most of our young folks don't know. They figure that one day they grew up and they woke up and there was the ghetto. The city looked the way it looked, and it's always been that way, but that's just not true. There was a deliberate and intentional act to make your city look the way it looks. It was deliberate and intentional. The New Deal and WPA, they created all kinds of programs for Americans at a specific time in history when it was difficult economically in this country after World War II. It was very difficult, and so they began to lift the economy up. They did this in Europe and the US. In Europe, they called it the Marshall Plan, and they invested billions of dollars in Europe to rebuild Europe after the Marshall Plan. Just not buildings and roads and bridges, but also job opportunities and education in Europe. Because after World War II, after the war, they rebuilt Europe. And they did the same thing in America. They rebuilt America with what we know as the WPA here in the state of New Jersey and across the country. We know this as the New Deal. Some of you folks are older than me know, if I'm saying something wrong, make me sit down. You know a little bit more about FDR than I do and the New Deal. And out of that came the FHA and the Home Mortgage Association and all these corporations and all these organizations that we take for granted now. Social Security came out of that time. All of these things. And so what did they do? They began to finance suburban communities. Some of these communities didn't look the way they looked. They financed suburban communities. They built roads that led from your city, Newark, all the way out to other cities so people could move out there and still drive into Newark and get the job, but move out there at the same time. And they invested in home ownership. That means they gave them low interest or no interest loans. They allowed them to buy homes with no money down. They did all of these things. They trained them, they educated them, they paid for their college tuition. So when you hear people say, oh, we shouldn't be giving people money for their college tuition, yeah, they mean they shouldn't give you the money for college tuition. But their kids already got the money for the college tuition. So they did all of those things during that time and built this nation up off of that. And in the reverse, they drew a red line around your community. They called it redlining. A red line, and most people think redlining was just about home ownership, but it wasn't. It was about investment. So they didn't just redline homes, they made it so you couldn't invest in hospitals. So you couldn't invest in supermarkets. So we talking about what? We talking about food deserts when people deliberately created a food desert in your community. We talking about no access to health care. Well, these people deliberately created an opportunity for you not to have access to health care in your community. This was done on purpose. And because it was done on purpose, it has to be repaired on purpose. It has to be done, it has to be a deliberate effort to repair or rectify or change or advance all of this forward. They have to do it. It must be done. This is nothing. I'm not just making this up. This was done here in New Jersey, not just all over the country. I'm not talking about Georgia or Mississippi or North Carolina. I'm talking about New Jersey. This happened in our state. And so it's important for us to make sure that those folks in power understand that we understand that things must change. And so we need direct investment. We need a Marshall Plan, an urban Marshall Plan. We need we need a new deal. Matter of fact, we need an old deal because we didn't get the old one. So we need a deal here for us right now. Investment in our community. We need investment in roads and bridges and hospitals and schools. We need investment in workforce development for our young people. We need investment in jobs and job training and employment. We need investment in technology and making sure broadband is to all of the residents in our cities. We need to invest in our communities. Full-scale, wholeheartedly investment. No more formulas. I've been saying that all over the state. No more. We don't want no more formulas. They create formulas to put us against one another, to debate and fight each other over the little bit of money they set aside for us to have, while they take the big pot of money, the pension money, and everything else on their own. They take a little bit off of the pension money, put it aside, and say, now you Negroes got to fight over the set-asides that we put for y'all in this formula. Right? They put the formula together. Now we struggling with each other, one city against another city, trying to fight for formulas. Then we get jealous of each other and fight against each other for the little bit of money and the crumbs they set aside for us. We don't want no more crumbs. We want the whole thing. We need the investment in our community. Full-scale investment. If you're not fighting for full-scale investment, then you're not fighting at all. We got to get out of this gradualism. Didn't the King tell us to get away from gradualism? The tranquilizing drug of gradualism. That's what King called it. This is what we have in New Jersey. And people think that. That's why they don't say anything in New Jersey, because New Jersey, they say, well, at least we not Mississippi. Well, they mistaken. If you look closer, you'll find out that there's some things happening here that we just turned a blind eye to, right? And America has really not done anything as forceful and as big as the WPA, as the New Deal since it was done. Never has done anything that big, that forceful, never. Anything that even come close to anything like that might be Obama's health care thing that he put out there. Nothing even remotely close. Nothing as close as Social Security. Nothing as close as the FHA. Nothing as close as all of those things that has happened during that time. And so we need to do it again. And the real drama to it, the real irony to it all is that this country will always be stuck until it deals with us. New Jersey will always be in this position until it deals with us. These people are fighting. They get mad when their taxes get increased. Well, they need to make it so more people can pay taxes. And the way you make it so more people can pay taxes, you put wealth in their household and income in their pockets. You make them own a home. You give them a decent job with a decent salary. Then they can pay taxes and then take the tax burden off of you, and you include more taxes for yourself. Then you have to stop with this home rule, this racism of segregation of not wanting to be next to one another. Put your kids in the same school and stop this regionalization with one school here and one school there, and one school is a whole school district. You got one school in your whole damn school district is one school in the whole school district. Next door, you got all these kids fighting for resources. We need to put it all together, regionalize this thing. This is what needs to happen. You want to stop this state from losing people, from the prices going up, from the taxes being increased. We need to end racism and segregation and white supremacy in the state of New Jersey. Because see, white supremacy ain't just about, people liking you. It's about policies. And the problem is people think that, white supremacy mean black people. But that's not true, because the same white supremacists are the same people who vote for these policies that are hurting you. And people don't understand that. Like the crazy people who don't like me are the same people who are making it difficult for your kid to go to college because they don't want to pay the debt cancellation. The same people who oppose to me are opposed to women's right to choose. The same people who don't like me are opposed to immigration and immigration reform. The same people who don't like me don't want your minimum wage increase. These are the same people. If you look hard enough, you'll see that these are the same people. Guess what? They don't like me, but they don't like you either. And the policies show that they don't like you. And you so stuck on me, you can't even see yourself in it. King said they feed their kids, when they find out they feed their kids Jim Crow. Feed their children Jim Crow. So you can say, look, we may not have anything, but we better than them. And it keeps us from coming together, fighting the real things that are hurting all of us collectively. And we need to understand that as we look at changing. So when we say black issues in New Jersey, black issues are democratic issues. And I'm not talking about the party. Black issues are issues of democracy. When we say we want to be repaired, then we're talking about we want democracy to be repaired. That this country is denying itself of creativity, of incredible intellectuals, of brilliant people, of even more resources and income and revenue and wealth, because they're denying us. And they would rather do that, run up into the Capitol on foolishness, than making sure that everybody else was okay in this country and in this state of New Jersey. I'm good. I'm glad that I'm in New Jersey, though. I want to say that. Because when I go other places, I say that because I say, look, at least our governor is not crazy. Because some of these people come on TV, and I say, well, this guy's insane. At least our governor is not insane, right? Which means they raise their hand. If you say we have a problem, everybody raise their hand. They say this needs to be fixed. People raise their hand. They understand that it's a problem. But we have to go beyond raising our hands. Somebody has to actually do something after everybody's hand. So we take a vote in this room and say something is wrong, everybody's hand goes up when we say something is wrong. If I wanted to have a discussion with all of y'all about what was wrong in the state, everybody will raise their hand and add into the discussion being wrong. But when I say, we're going to meet here tomorrow to do something about it at 10 o'clock, that number is going to shrink incredibly. You know that, Brother Larry Ham. That number is going to shrink. That's like we all opposed to police brutality, but Larry Ham said we're going to have a march, though. Meet us at the Lincoln statue tomorrow. That number of hands gets smaller and smaller. So we need to go beyond just the folks down in Trenton raising their hands, talking about there's a problem, to more folks raising their hands about we're going to do something actually about the problem. I spoke at the housing conference, and I'm going to close, and somebody asked me, how do I get to talk the way I talk, like you mayor, you're really not supposed to be, I said, listen, man, I represent the only people that came here against their will. We didn't come here looking for jobs or fleeing persecution. We didn't come through Ellis Island, nor did we come as human beings. We didn't come looking for a promise. In fact, we was the promise. We came as chattel, property chained to the bottom of a boat. Millions lost in the Atlantic, the trip over here alone. We didn't come here benefiting from a growing economy because we was the economy. In fact, America's economy is fruitful now because of us. And the only reason we got here where we are today because of backwoods prayers and ring shots. You get mad at your grandmother, your great-grandmother for the way they behave and act sometimes, but it's those prayers and those ring shots, those Bible readings, those prayer meetings that got us to where we at in half legible English. It was Moses through Harriet and Nat Turner and all of those folks that helped us after they prayed, they got up and did something about our situation. It was us, thousands of us walking off of plantations. I heard Al Sharpton say yesterday that we had watch night parties. We stood up, we wanted to make sure that what Abraham Lincoln said he was going to do, that he actually did it, that emancipation actually took place. We stood up in the church all night and waited and watched to make sure that there was actual Emancipation Proclamation. You thought you just got here. You woke up on Clinton Avenue one day. No, your family got here against its will all the way down in Jamestown, Virginia somewhere, or on the coast of Mississippi, made its way up here through the first or the second migration, looking for jobs and opportunity and fleeing persecution and lynching and murder in the South, to find their kids being dead on dirty sidewalks in an intersection in an inner city here in the state of New Jersey. We didn't come here to search for enlightenment or opportunity. We were segregated in their schools and still are, redlined in our neighborhoods and still are, fed poverty as nutrition and denied very basic freedom. We were devalued in court and terrorized in the street. We didn't come to streets that were paved with gold. We actually paved the streets ourselves. We were targeted by law enforcement, strangled for selling loose cigarettes. Never mind cannabis. Our children shot to death for playing with toy guns in front of rec centers. Stony the road we tried is what we sing. Bitter the chastening rod. This country is filled with our blood, our blood-soaked footsteps trying to force it to actually live up to the words they wrote on paper. And we are still here, still engaging, still trying to save this place from itself. And everything that we know about science and humanity would justify our resentment, our cynicism, our discord, our anger. But I think some of us may have it confused here in New Jersey. They think that we still here because we believe in them. We still here because we believe God. We believe in our church meetings, we believe in our masjids and our mosques that what was promised is going to come true, that the meek is going to inherit the earth. We believe that. We believe that the righteous will not be forsaken or their seed begging bread. We believe the stories of the 3 boys shut up in the oven, that the Red Sea parted for those escaping oppression. We believe the Jordan dried up so we could cross over, and the stones will remind us of the firm footing of our ancestors that came before us. We believe that giants can be slain with slingshots, and that the rejected stone will one day become the cornerstone. We believe that. We believe that America will never be what's promised until we are made whole. We believe that. And so you think we here voting, you think we here paying our taxes, you think we here doing what we do every day, being good citizens because we believe you know, we believe what our grandmother told us. We believe that truth crushed the earth will rise again. We believe that we're going to win because we know how the story ends. We know that those who oppress won in the end. We here still fighting, still breathing, still raising our children, still going to school, still doing this, not because we believe in the Constitution of the state of New Jersey, but we believe God. We believe we are going to win in the end. And no matter what you do, no matter what you say, we're going to come out victorious every time. Each and every time we're going to come out victorious. And if you were smart, you would start believing us when we say it to you. That as long as you shut us out and shut us down, that as long as you keep us away and off apart, this state will never be what it should be. That the very people that you persecuted will be the only people that can help lead you out of this situation. The very people that you annihilated and beat and tortured and tormented in your laws and your churches, in the medical field, all of those people, those are the very people you're going to have to search out and seek to help you get out of the situation you're in. This is the truth of the matter, and this is how it was made. The same Bible, the same Bible that Martin Luther King was arrested with. The same Bible Martin Luther King was arrested with. You know, it had his number scribbled in the Bible. You know, when the jailer arrested him, they put his jail number in the Bible. The same Bible Martin Luther King was arrested with made his way out of that jail, out of Birmingham, made his way out of that jail, all the way through Jim Crow South, all the way up north, all the way to the most powerful seat in the world, in the nation of Washington, D.C., and the first black man that ever became the president of the United States actually was sworn in with his hand on the very same Bible that Martin Luther King was arrested with in Birmingham. Now, if you tell me that ain't God, I don't know who else it is. That's proof that the meek will inherit the earth. The same Bible that King was arrested with, Barack Obama put his hand on to swear himself in to be the most powerful man in the world. It's time for us to remember that what we're doing is written. The things that we're fighting for, Paul Robeson said, the things that we're fighting for are just and right And the power lies in the fact that they are just and that they are right, that what we're asking for is correct. We're not asking for anything that's not correct. What we're asking for is right and what's correct, and it will happen. Even if it doesn't happen in your lifetime, God knows and promised that it will happen. God bless you. Godspeed.